So, you're a contractor working in Vermont and you're trying to figure out all the rules about bonding. It can get a little confusing, right? Well, in this quick explainer, we're going to give you the clear, straightforward answers you need so you can get bonded and get to work. When you're ready to get a project off the ground, this is always the first question, isn't it? What bond do I actually need to operate legally here in Vermont? It's a fundamental question, but you know what? The answer is probably not what you're expecting. That's right. Because when it comes to contractor bonding, Vermont kind of plays by its own set of rules. It is definitely not the one-size-fits-all answer you'd find in a lot of other states. Okay, so to make sure you're totally compliant, we're going to walk through 5 key things. We'll start with Vermont's surprising statewide rule. Then we'll clear up the difference between licenses and bonds. After that, we'll show you where to really look for requirements, cover the important rules for public projects, and then wrap up with your next steps and what this all costs. All right, let's dive right into the main event here. Vermont's statewide requirement, or, as you're about to see, the lack of one. And here it is, the big reveal. This is the single most important thing you need to understand. Unlike so many other states, Vermont has no statewide general contractor license, and it requires no statewide bond for them either. Yep, you heard that right. At the state level, for general contractors, nothing is required. Now, while that might sound a little strange, Vermont isn't some lone wolf here. It's actually one of 31 states that don't make general contractors get a bond at the state level. So this approach is way more common than you'd think. Okay, so if there's no state bond for general contractors, what about specialty trades? Like electricians and plumbers? This is where we have to draw a really clear line between being licensed and needing a bond. They're two different things. This chart lays it out perfectly. Look, electricians and plumbers in Vermont, yes, they absolutely need a state license from the Department of Labor. But do they need a state-level bond? The answer is still a firm no. And that's the key takeaway here. Just because a trade needs a state license doesn't automatically mean a state bond is also part of the deal. So if the state isn't the one requiring these bonds, where on earth should you be looking? Well, the answer is you have to think smaller. Think local. This is where the real rules for contractors are hiding in Vermont. This is the term you need to get familiar with, a municipal contractor bond. It's not a state thing. It's a bond that a specific city or town requires. And what's its purpose? It's basically a guarantee that you, the contractor, are going to play by all the local rules and follow their specific building codes. So, where are you likely to find these requirements? Well, you might see them in cities like Burlington, Montpelier, Rutland, or Barre. But, and this is important, this list is not the whole story. The absolute #1 rule is this. Always call the local building department where you plan to work before you start that project. They are the ones who have the final say. Period. Now, there is one huge exception to everything we've talked about so far, and it applies specifically to contractors who are working on public, government-funded projects. This all falls under a law called the Vermont Little-Miller Act. For public projects in Vermont, there's a magic number you have to burn into your memory: $100,000. If your project is valued at or above this amount, it triggers a very specific set of bonding rules. So what happens when you cross that $100,000 line? You've got to get 2 different bonds. First, you need a 100% performance bond. That guarantees the project actually gets finished. And second, you need a 100% payment bond. That one guarantees that all your subcontractors and material suppliers get paid. All right, we've gone over the rules. Now let's get practical. How do you actually comply with all this? And more importantly, what can you expect to pay for those municipal bonds you might need? Let's talk money. How much are these local bonds going to set you back? The good news is it's actually very affordable. The price you pay, which is called a premium, is just a small percentage of the total bond amount. So for a common $10,000 bond, a contractor with good credit is probably only going to pay between $100 and $300 for the entire year. It's really just a straightforward cost of doing business. So to make sure you stay compliant on every single job in Vermont, just follow this simple 4-step checklist. 1. Is your project private or public? 2. Where exactly is it located? 3. And this is the most critical step. Call the local building department and confirm what they require. And finally, step 4, if they need a bond, you go get it. Simple as that. So there you have it. The roadmap for contractor bonding in Vermont is pretty clear. It's not about some big, overarching state rule. It's all about checking in at the local level and knowing the specific rules for public projects. So with this knowledge, is your business ready to confidently take on that next Vermont project?
And once you've confirmed that a bond is needed, your next step is easy. You can get your surety bond quote in just minutes at buysuretybonds.com.